Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, audiophiles and music lovers. Today we're going to talk about the Magico A5 loudspeaker. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, the Magico A5, which you can see here, and we'll put some other shots on screen, is a medium height cabinet-based cone driver loudspeaker. It's an upper echelon speaker, I would say. It's priced at $26,800 in the US per pair. It has some unconventional details. It has three 9-inch woofers, 5-inch mid-range, and roughly 1-inch dome tweeter. The dome tweeter is beryllium. The mid-range and the bass drivers use nanocarbon. It's a special, very high strength weave. The cabinet is made out of aluminum. It has extensive bracing. Each speaker weighs 150 pounds, so you're talking about a rather massive speaker, and when you rap on it, you just don't hear anything other than me saying ow. Same thing is true with the sides. I don't even hear my knuckles on that. It is a really solid, well-constructed speaker with a lot of attention paid to driver and crossover design. As I'm fond of saying, you can't really reason from technical details to sound quality, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of depth there, other than to say Magico has a lot of experience designing high-end loudspeakers. They have incredibly full range of different series. This is the top of the A series line, but then there's the S series and the M series. They are now somewhat famous for their M9 loudspeaker, which at $750,000 is thought by some to be the best, or as if you could say that, certainly one of the best loudspeakers currently being manufactured. So they know a lot about how to build, how to design, and how to detail high-end loudspeakers. So what I would say, what we want to ask is this one of them? And I'll be back in a minute to talk about sound quality, so that I can go over for you what I found in 6 months of listening and try to give you a flavor for whether this might be a speaker that you would want to go listen to or possibly acquire. All right, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, let's talk about the sound quality of the Magico A5, because as speakers go, it's 150 pounds a side and solid and all of those other things, but it's actually relatively compact and easy to fit into a medium-sized room. Of course, it can be used in relatively large rooms too, and I don't know how small you could make it, but it's really not materially bigger than a stand mount speaker, as long as you don't mind the visual impression that it makes, which, it's beautifully built, so what's to hate? All right, so it fits in many places, but let's talk about how it sounds. I want to give a broad picture to start this conversation because, frankly, that's really kind of how you add it together, and if that doesn't work for you, no amount of detail on other parameters is going to get you there. So this speaker has an amazingly high degree of naturalness in my mind. I would say accuracy, but accuracy is sometimes associated with something that I'll talk about when I get to some of the details. It's sometimes associated with painful, overwrought kind of quality, and that's not what we're talking about here. So I like the word naturalness because they sound a lot like real music. And to do that, you have to have even top to bottom balance. So you need bass, mid-range, and treble in approximately equal amounts. But you also need to have a low level of lumpiness as we go from low frequencies to high frequencies. Just to give you an idea, not that I'm really like super into measurements, but I measured these, and in my room they're flat from basically 30 hertz to 20 kilohertz, and the response curve is quite smooth in between those two frequency ranges. There are the inevitable ups and downs in the bass where you have room resonances that are a function of the dimension, and you're going to have that in essentially all rooms. But other than that, you've got good output at 30 hertz, and it's a smooth curve all the way from there. Is that why they sound natural? I don't think that's the whole picture, but I just want to give you that flavor of you put music on and you find yourself starting to listen to the music and discovering new things in the music and not really listening to how the speakers sound, because the speakers sound like music. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two that I want to make is I think the voicing of the speaker has been very carefully and expertly judged to be slightly on the warm side without being bloated or anything like that in the bass, or without seeming rolled off or dead in the highs. It's just you get this sense of, I said naturalness before, but you get this sense of being in one of the great halls of Europe where the wood and the history of the hall comes through to you more than being in old Lincoln Center, let's say. I mean, my understanding is new Lincoln Center isn't the be-all and end-all by any means. It's known for being kind of a cold hall. And I think from talking to hundreds of audiophiles, they would rather be on the European hall side than on the Lincoln Center or Orchestra Hall in Minneapolis side of the equation. Really expertly judged voicing that's not so extroverted that you notice it as voicing, but after 6 months with these speakers, I can say I think I understand the genius of what they were trying to do. Okay, now let's contrast that with two other factors which might come as a surprise after hearing naturalness and warmth. Okay, the first thing I'm going to say is this is an incredibly good speaker at dynamic transparency. I use the term dynamic transparency to describe the ability of the product under review, in this case it's a speaker, to do the whole transient envelope in a way that sounds realistic. The transient rise on these speakers will really catch your attention, but there are other speakers that will do that, but then they'll make you pay for it. And what I like about the A5 is it doesn't really make you pay for it. You've got transient rise on, say, a drum head strike, or horns in a jazz band firing up, or string plucks on electric guitar, Steve Vai or Joe Satriani kind of stuff. And that stuff can just come out of nowhere, grab your attention, but then when the transient hits its peak level, it just goes back down the way it would on a real instrument. And that's what makes the sound so inviting and engrossing and just brings you into the music and makes you want to play track after track after track. You've got this beautifully judged naturalness combined with just a hint of European concert hall warmth, together with this beautiful dynamic transparency, and then the, I don't even want to say icing on the cake, but another key component of the cake is you get this super low level resolution. And you want that low level resolution because the low level resolution is what allows you to hear the reflections in the hall and the resonances in the body of the guitar and the strings dying off in the piano. All of that kind of stuff comes through beautifully. And having that sense of space gives you a sense of reality that allows you to suspend disbelief, stop listening to stereo, and start really getting into music. So I thought that combination of naturalness, warmth, dynamic transparency, and super high resolution was just, wow. That, I think, is what you want. I'll be back in a minute, and we're going to talk about one other quality that I think you also really want, where the A5 is maybe a little bit more of a mixed bag, at least in a conventionally treated room. Just a brief interruption, esteemed viewers. As you may know, I'm Tom Martin, Chief Content Officer of The Absolute Sound. We have a new product. It's on the Substack platform, and we're going to do some interesting things with Substack. First of which is reader questions and answers. Each Monday, readers will submit questions. We'll pick the most interesting ones, and we'll answer the questions on Friday. We'll also have early access to articles and special blogs that don't appear anywhere else. We hope you'll join us. It's only a cost of a cup of coffee per month. Just check on the screen or in the show notes below. Thanks, and now back to the show. Okay, let's talk about imaging. A speaker like this that has very high resolution will tend, in my experience, to image well if it doesn't have resonances or other artifacts that distract you. That, I think, is a good description of this speaker, which is it's very high resolution, it's very low resonance. The drivers, the cabinet structure, the whole 9 yards is a low resonance thing, so it doesn't distract your attention and cause you to focus on the speaker. So what you get from an imaging standpoint is beautiful stage width, excellent stage depth, among the best that I have heard. I also like that they tend to throw the image in the plane, not of the front of the speaker, but a little bit farther back. All of this does work to help you suspend disbelief when it comes to imaging. And I think when you get the imaging right together with all those other qualities, that's when your mind can really, really be focused on the music, and I thought the A5 did an excellent job there. The one place where I have a question mark, it's not really a criticism. The place I have a question mark is I would say the image height with these speakers tends to be below maybe 6 inches or a foot above the speaker. The vertical dimension is one of the problematic elements of stereo, so we'll talk about that at another time. There's a lot of elements of stereo that really need to be talked about at length, and I will do that. But I am unclear whether, with my current room treatment, which is largely designed to address the first reflections, the shortest path first reflections, whether I've done everything I could to support these speakers. And ultimately, after a couple of months of moving them around a little bit, and I'll tell you and show you right here that 6 inches mattered a tremendous amount to the ultimate result I got. I don't love that answer, but that's just the truth of how things work in high-end audio. Anyway, when we finally got the position optimized to some degree, I'm a little bit closer to the rear and side wall than I would like, and I think a little bit of additional treatment might be helpful there. That's true confessions time, but it kind of makes the point that this is a speaker that's so good that to get all of the elements dialed in, you're really going to want to pay attention to room setup, room treatment, those kinds of things. I could say that about a $5,000 I could say that about a $1,000 loudspeaker. Room treatment matters. I'm not clear that I completely was able to dial that in. Supply chain problems and so on meant that my new room treatment package is just now arriving, so maybe I can report back on whether that makes a difference. But I also don't think it's hugely surprising that a speaker that's got these constrained dimensions, which, as I say, in many ways is a virtue, might also not cast the tallest image that you'll find on the planet. Okay, enough of that. I loved listening to these speakers. I really have enjoyed having them in the reference system. They have gotten me to listen to music that I probably wouldn't have thought about. They work really well at relatively high levels. I consider relatively high levels to be a little bit above 80 dB average. You really should never listen above 85 dB average, and I'll also do a video explaining how your ear-brain combination does weird things above that level. But anyway, I had traditionally been listening more in the 78 dB range, and with these I tended to creep the knob up a little bit to 80 or 82, and the dynamic impact of that was just wonderful, and that allowed me to get into a whole range of new music that was really, really enjoyable. So I think those of you who like music that's dense and has a high level of dynamics and is complex would just find these to be truly to your taste. They take apart big ensemble combinations. They take apart heavy rock material in a way that it just allows you to hear what's going on there, and just it's revelatory. That's the simple word I use. It's revelatory in its dynamic impact, and it's revelatory in hearing what the musicians are doing and the layers of complexity that the production team and the artists have put together. So, as I say, my testimony to this speaker is not only did I like it, who cares, you're not me, I found it to be something that allowed me to access more music and have more fun with that music than pretty much any other speaker I've had in the reference system. Now, I've listened to a lot of $50,000, $7,500, $125,000, $150,000 speakers. I haven't had them in here, so it's quite possible that you can go up from here. But this strikes me as a really nice stopping point of you get a lot of what you're going to get when you do the high-end thing, and you get almost none of that, it's a good speaker, but I really would like something that did blah. You're not distracted by all of that stuff with this speaker, in my experience. Go listen to it for yourself. It's totally worth it. And I hope you've enjoyed this. As I said, I enjoyed making the review. I enjoyed listening to these speakers. If you did enjoy it, please click the subscribe button, click on the notification bell, look for the link that's on the screen or in the show notes to get our newsletter. And of course, we've been publishing the Absolute Sound magazine for 50 years, and we would love it if you would join us as a subscriber. The magazine has some of our most notable and high-endy extreme reviews in it, and I think you'll enjoy those and learn a lot from them, even if you're not shopping in those price ranges. So, thanks for being with us, and we hope you'll join us next time.